Reading time. Memories of my first day at school. I remember my first day at school very well. I knew the school quite well because my older sister, Sandy, went there, and every day Dad and I met her at the school gate after school. Every day she ran out of the school with her friends. She often carried a painting. I felt jealous. I wanted to paint too. I was 5 years old when I started school. Most children in my class started school in September, but I started school in January when I was 5 years old, because my birthday is in December. 3 other kids started school on the same day as me. I was excited about my first day. I had my new uniform, black skirt, a white t-shirt, and green jumper, and a new red bag. When we arrived that day, a teacher met the new children. At the school gate, Dad hugged me and said goodbye. I stood with the other children. I didn't talk to them because I was too nervous. Then Mrs. Wilson took us to our classroom. All the other children were already there. They looked at us when we entered the room. When 30 children looked at me, I started to cry. But I wasn't upset for long. I sat with the other children on the carpet and the class teacher, Miss Holland, read us a story. Later, we drew pictures with colored pencils. And at break time, I made friends with a girl called Megan. At the end of the day, I ran to the school gate with Megan and my picture, just like Sandy always did. The daily routine of a sport woman. Janet is an athlete, and she wakes up at 4:30 a.m. every weekday morning. She spends the first 30 minutes reading and then 15 minutes meditating. At 5:15 a.m., Janet checks her email for only 30 minutes and then goes for her first run of the day. She runs for an hour and a half along the lake near her house. After running, Janet has a shower and then prepares breakfast, which is usually cereal and fruit. However, she occasionally has a less healthy breakfast. She usually finishes breakfast at around 8 a.m. If it is a weekday, she always leaves the house at 8:20 and goes to training. Her training starts at 9 a.m. and she needs 30 minutes to drive to gym. She trains for 3 hours with her team and then goes home for lunch. She always eats a very big and healthy lunch. As soon as she finishes lunch, she has a nap for 1 hour. After her nap, she likes to go for a walk around the lake and look at nature. She sometimes reads or meditates at the lake in the afternoon. In the evening, during the week, she meets up with friends. Men are athletes too, so they have a lot to talk about. She typically goes to bed at 9 p.m. because she prefers to be awake in the morning than at night. She sometimes falls asleep listening to music, but she never watches the television or reads anything on her tablet. She always makes sure her alarm is set and is almost always asleep by 9:45 p.m. My neighborhood. My neighborhood is very peaceful and quiet. It is a new neighborhood, and there are a lot of big houses and some apartment buildings. The streets are very clean, and there aren't many cars. My school is near my house. I can walk there in 10 minutes. There is also a park, which has a small playground for children and a large field. I like to play baseball there with my friends after school. All of the houses have a small front yard, but big back yards. Most of my neighbors have a swimming pool, and some even have a trampoline. Everyone has a flower garden, and in the spring it is very beautiful. My road is called Maple Road. It is not in the city, it's in the suburbs. There aren't any restaurants, bars, or cinemas on my road. But if you go to Main Street, you can find a lot of things to do. My favorite store is there. It's called Knick Knack, and they sell everything you can imagine. I like my neighborhood because it is very safe. There is no crime, and all of my neighbors take care of each other. The police station is next to the school, which is very nice. However, the hospital is quite far. It is in the city, and we have to drive 30 minutes to get there. My friends live near me, and we often meet up to play or just talk. We love playing hockey in the street because there isn't any traffic. I think I am lucky to live in my neighborhood. What do you do with your free time? I am almost 19 years old, and I finished my first year of university. I'm currently on holiday, and I have a lot of free time. Having free time is nice, but the problem is that when you are a student, you never have money. And when you have a lot of free time, but you don't have much money, it can get boring. Every morning I go to the gym, and I read in the afternoons, but I still have a lot of free time. Going to the gym takes me about 2 hours, including the road time and the post-gym shower, and I usually read for 1 hour. Another activity that I do is watch documentaries. I study history and I love historical documentaries. I learn a lot from them. I watch documentaries for 1.5 hours 4 or 5 times a week. But those activities are a small part of my day. When I'm not at the gym or reading, I get bored, and I often play video games for hours. I enjoy playing video games, but I don't think it's a productive activity. When I play for a long time, I feel bad. I'd like to find more productive activities to do, but it isn't easy. I live in a small town, and there aren't many things to do. Do you have any suggestions? What do you do with your free time? Famous people's first job. Not all famous people were born into famous families. A lot of them had normal lives before becoming famous. They also had jobs like the rest of us. Here are just a few. Former President Obama works at an ice cream parlor selling ice cream cones. He was in high school in Honolulu, Hawaii, and said it was quite hard. He also said that the job taught him about responsibility, hard work, and how to spend time with work, friends, and family. Brad Pitt had a weird job when he was younger. He works as a chicken. That's right. He works at a restaurant called El Pollo Loco in Hollywood, and his job was to dress up like a chicken and wave at the cars on the road. In fact, if you go on to see the stars tour in Hollywood, many of them will take you past the same restaurant where Brad used to work. Maybe the strangest path in life was that of Pope Francis. When he was young in Argentina, he worked several jobs before joining the Jesuits and dedicating his life to religion. He worked as a cleaner sweeping floors, a chemical tester at a laboratory, and as a bouncer at a bar. Yes, the Pope was the person responsible for security at a bar in case anything wrong happened. Can you imagine? Going to the mall. Every city in the USA has a mall or four. There are about 1,100 malls in the US. These giant store-filled buildings are one of America's greatest entertainment options for teens and families. Mall of America in Minnesota is the largest mall. It is so big, it has an amusement park in it. Nickelodeon Universe with several roller coasters. There are more than 500 stores in it, about 400,000 square meters, and about 12,000 people work there. But malls nowadays aren't the same as they used to be in the 80s and 90s. During those decades, teens would go to the mall and spend hours shopping, playing video games at the arcade, or just hanging out with friends. It was cool in the summer and warm in the winter. In those days, malls provided the perfect source of shopping and entertainment for entire families. Nowadays, you can still eat in the food court and go to the movies, but there aren't many arcades left. Millennials have their Xboxes or PS4s and they like shopping online, which is also happening with more and more people from other generations. And as more people shop online and play video games at home, fewer people go to the mall to hang out. Hopefully, malls will remain one of the great American pastimes, but only time will tell how people in the future will prefer to spend their time. Why aren't babies born on Do you know anyone whose birthday is Christmas Day? You may know a few, but actually having a birthday on that day is quite rare. December 25th is the least common birthday in the USA, Australia, and New Zealand. Between 30% and 40% fewer babies are born on this day than on the peak days. In England, Wales, and Ireland, Christmas Day is the second rarest day for a birthday. There, the fewest birthdays are on December 26th, the national holiday called Boxing Day. Other festival dates are also uncommon. In the USA, the four least common birthdays are Christmas, New Year, Thanksgiving, and Independence Day. So why does this happen? Actually, there is a very logical reason. A third of babies in the USA are born by cesarean. Obviously, doctors can plan the date for these operations. They don't schedule them for the national holidays because they want to be celebrating, not working. Also, if babies don't arrive on time, doctors give the mothers drugs to make them give birth. However, they probably won't do this during holidays. Interestingly, though, there are relatively few birthdays on April 1st in England, Wales, and New Zealand. It's not a national holiday, so doctors carry out operations as usual. But in those countries, this day is called April Fool's Day. Traditionally, people play jokes and trick other people on this day. Maybe mothers avoid giving birth then because they are worried that people will bully or play jokes on their child. Some times of year are more common for birthdays than others. In the USA and New Zealand, the most popular month is September. In the UK, it's September or early October. The reason for this is because many babies are conceived in the cold winter months when days are short. Australia, where it is warm in February and March, doesn't show this pattern. In countries further north than the UK, like Norway and Russia, the peak months are earlier in July or August. Think about your birthday. Is it at a common time of year? Would you prefer your birthday to be at different time of year? Online shopping. My name is Sarah and I love shopping online. I prefer mobile phone apps, but sometimes I use my computer. The phone is more convenient for me, and I can even do my shopping from bed. I love shopping so much that I buy everything I need at home. I get food, electronics, books, and even large pieces of furniture like my sofa and bookshelves all online. But I still prefer getting clothes from a store so I can try them on to be sure they fit me fine. Yesterday, I bought a birthday present for my mother, and it arrived today. That saves me a lot of time. I am a very busy person, and I am a little forgetful too. If I think of something I need, then it is wonderful that I can buy it at that moment. My friends aren't as comfortable with buying things online as I am, because they think that it can be dangerous. Of course, bad things sometimes happen, but I am very careful with all of my personal details. I think the biggest fear that people have with using their credit cards online is that someone will steal their number. It is important to me to be sure that the web page is secure. You can see this if the address has got an S in it, like https:// that S means it is safe. People should not be afraid of shopping online. I think it will be the only way we will do our shopping in the future. 3 American festivals. Burning Man. Burning Man is an event that started in 1986 in Black Rock City, Nevada. People go to the desert and build a giant community for 9 days. At the end of the festival, they burn a giant wooden statue of a man. That's where the name comes from. The festival celebrates inclusion, community, and responsibility. Everyone should share their talents so others can enjoy them for free. It is now also very popular with young influencers on social media and other famous people. The Taste of Buffalo. The Taste of Buffalo in Buffalo, New York, is the largest two-day food festival in the country every year. Nearly 500,000 people visit the festival to eat food from over 50 restaurants. There are over 200 different dishes to try. Most of the food is from regional restaurants, and it is a great family event. You can listen to live music from 2 stages, walk through the parks and downtown, as well as participate in a lot of different family-friendly activities. National Cherry Blossom Festival. The National Cherry Blossom Festival in Washington, D.C. is a spring event that remembers the gift of cherry trees from Japan to the USA in 1912. The trees were a present from the mayor of Tokyo to the mayor of Washington, D.C. The first celebration was in 1934. There is a parade every year with large balloons, marching bands from all over the country, and concerts. There are also a lot of different shows and events, such as a kite flying festival, a 10-mile run, and fireworks at night. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is celebrated in the USA on the third Thursday of November. The tradition comes from the first people to arrive from England to North America. The Native Americans taught them to grow food and hunt, and the Pilgrims invited the Native Americans for dinner after the harvest. This was the first Thanksgiving in common folklore. Nowadays, Thanksgiving is the country's largest secular holiday and represents a time when friends and family get together for a large turkey dinner. Traditionally, people make stuffing, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, sweet potatoes, and pumpkin pie to go with the huge roast turkey. In the morning, there is a massive parade in NYC called the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which has a lot of giant balloons, famous people, and marching bands. In the afternoon, people watch American football games. There is usually one game in the afternoon and one in the evening. Thanksgiving also marks the unofficial beginning of the holiday season in America. The Friday after Thanksgiving, which is the following day, is Black Friday and has a lot of crazy sales. Also, it is traditional to start putting up Christmas decorations after Thanksgiving if your family celebrates Christmas. Why do people collect? Petra Angels own 19,571 erasers. Carol Vaughan has 1,221 bars of soap, and Ralph Shorter has a collection of 14,502 packets of sugar. Many people love to collect things, but why? Psychologists and collectors have different opinions. The psychologist Carl Jung believed that collecting is part of our ancient human history. Thousands of years ago, humans collected nuts and berries. They kept them carefully and ate them when there was no food. The best collectors survived long, cold winters or seasons without rain. Their genes passed to future generations. Nowadays, we still have a collecting instinct. Historian Philip Bloom has a different opinion. He thinks collectors want to make something that will remain after their death by bringing many similar items together. The collector gains historical importance. Sometimes their collections become museums or libraries. For example, Henry Huntington, who founded a library in Los Angeles to house his collection of books. Author Steve Roach thinks that people collect things to remember their childhood. Many children collect things, but few have enough money to buy the things they really want, and they lose interest. In later life, they remember their collections fondly. Now they have enough money and opportunity to find special items, and they start collecting again. This way, they can relive and enjoy their childhood years. Art collector Werner Manserberger agrees that collecting is linked to childhood, but he believes we collect in order to feel safe and secure. While babies hold blankets or toys to feel safe when their mother isn't there, adults collect things to stop feeling lonely or anxious. Autograph collector Mark Baker agrees that collecting is emotional, but he doesn't collect to reduce anxiety. For me, it's the excitement, he says. I love trying to get a famous person's autograph. Sometimes I succeed, and sometimes I fail. Also, by collecting autographs, I feel connected to famous people. I don't just watch them on television, I actually meet them. These are just a few reasons for collecting. Do you know any people with collections? Why do they collect? The man with the most world records. Ashrita Furman is a record-breaking record breaker. He has set more records than anyone else in the world. In the last 40 years, he has established more than 600 records. As a child, Ashrita loved reading the Guinness Book of World Records. He wanted to be in it too, but he thought people had to be good at sports to be in the book. He wasn't a good athlete. He felt his dream would never come true. But later in life, Ashrita learned meditation, and with this, he learned that nothing is impossible. He tested this idea in 1978 by entering a 24-hour bike race in New York. Without any training, Ashrita came third. After that, he started thinking about breaking records again. First, he tried to break the record for the most jumping jacks. He failed at first, but remembering that anything is possible, he trained, meditated, and tried again. This time he did 27,000 jumping jacks in 6 hours 45 minutes and became the new record holder. His achievement appeared in the 1980 Guinness Book of Records. Today, Ashrita has a long list of records, including walking the furthest distance with a bike on his chin, cycling the longest distance with a bottle on his head, and lighting the most candles on a birthday cake. He says, I choose ideas which are challenging, fun, and childish. I enjoy practicing and seeing my progress. He says his favorite record was the longest distance on a pogo stick. While he was on holiday in Japan, he saw Mount Fuji and thought it was beautiful. So, he decided to try to break a record there. He did 11.5 miles. The most difficult record was the most forward rolls. In 10 hours 30 minutes, he did 8,341 of them, traveling 12 miles. If you want to break a world record too, Ashrita gives this advice. Choose something you enjoy. because you will need to practice. And don't give up. Your mind will tell you that something is impossible, but it isn't. If someone else has done something and you work hard, you can do it too. Frogs in Love, Romeo and Juliet. Romeo the Frog spent 10 years alone in a museum in Bolivia. He is a humongous frog, and for a long time, scientists at the museum thought that Romeo was the only humongous frog in the world. A lot of these frogs have died because of deforestation, and the deadly disease has taken the lives of many others. The scientists wanted to find a mate for Romeo. They even set up a profile for him on Match.com. In 2018, some scientists went to the Bolivian forest to look for a partner for Romeo. They looked in many streams, but they couldn't find any frogs. They grew tired, wet, and disappointed. They decided to check one more stream before going home, and then they found a humongous frog beside a waterfall. This frog was male, but they returned the next day and found 4 more frogs, 2 male and 2 female. One of the females was the right age to mate. The conservationists called her Juliet. The scientists didn't let Romeo and Juliet meet at first. They needed to check that Juliet didn't have a disease. But finally, they put the 2 frogs together. At first, Romeo seemed nervous, but soon he swam to Juliet and then he did a funny dance, shaking his toes. Then he put his arms and legs around her and made a really loud call. Juliet hasn't laid any eggs yet, but scientists hope she will. That way, they can learn more about these frogs and help to protect them in the forest. But they know it won't be easy. For frogs to mate, the temperature and water quality must be perfect. They also only mate when it is raining. So the scientists had to put special rain equipment in their tank. However, the scientists aren't too worried if Romeo and Juliet don't mate, because they have the 4 other frogs and they are happy that Romeo isn't lonely anymore. Ancient robots. What do you think of when you read the word robot? Many people think about big machines in car factories or futuristic monsters in films. Few of us think about the past, but people were building incredible machines with human abilities hundreds of years ago. For example, Egyptian texts from 1100 BC mention moving statues which shows the next king. None of these statues exist, but probably they were built using the ancient Egyptians' mechanical technology. Another ancient robot was a big robotic arm called the claw. The ancient Greek writer Polybius wrote about it in 213 BC. It was built during a war in the Romans, and it hung over the city wall towards the sea. When a Roman ship came close, the arm picked up the front of the ship and lifted it into the air. Then the boat fell backwards into the sea and sank. Again, we don't know if the machine was really built, but it was possible with ancient Greek technology. Another ancient Greek inventor, Philon of Byzantium, built a female robot at about the same time. If someone placed a cup in her hand, it mixed water and wine to make a drink. But the robot wasn't popular because people didn't need robots to work. They had lots of slaves. The famous artist Leonardo da Vinci loved designing robots. Few of his ideas were built, but his plans are very detailed. One modern-day robot engineer, Mark Rothschild, still uses them to get ideas when designing robots for NASA. One of Da Vinci's robots was a lion. He built it for the King of France in 1515. It could walk and present flowers. In 2009, engineers used the plans to build it again. It worked perfectly. After that, more and more mechanical robots were built. They did more and more difficult tasks, such as playing the flute, writing and drawing a picture. Although modern technology has moved on, these historical robots still amaze people today. How to play carom. Carom is a popular Indian game for 2 or 4 players. You play it on a square board with a hole in each corner. You also need 20 discs. 9 are black, 9 are white, 1 is red, and the last disc is a striker, which is bigger and heavier than the other discs. Players push the striker with one hand so that it hits another disc and pushes it into a hole. This is called sinking a disc. The board has 2 circles in the middle, one inside the other. At the start of the game, place the red disc or queen on the small circle and the black and white discs in the larger circle around it in a special pattern. There are 4 long, thin rectangles on each side of the board, parallel to the edge, with a circle at each end. Place the striker inside a rectangle or in a circle before pushing it. There are also 4 lines running from each corner towards the center of the board, full lines. During the game, only your hand may cross these lines. Sit beside the board. You mustn't get up while playing. Choose a color, black or white. Then hit the striker with your finger towards the colored discs. If you sink one, it goes out of the game. Then return the striker to a starting position and have another turn. But if you make a fall, like sinking the striker or another player's disc, one of your discs returns to the board. Either player can sink the queen, but you must sink a disc of your own color first. After sinking the queen, you must sink another disc in your color immediately. If you fail, the queen returns to the board. The winner is the first person to sink all their discs. You get 1 point for each of the other players' discs on the board, plus 3 points if you sunk the queen. Usually, people play several games, and the first person to get 25 points is the winner. Why not watch this game online? You might decide to play it yourself. The Rock Garden of Chandigarh. In Chandigarh, a city in northeast India, there is an amazing garden. There are tall rocks and small paths between them. There are waterfalls, pools, and hundreds of sculptures. The sculptures are surprising because they are all made from rubbish, like plastic jewelry, bottles, broken pots, sinks, toilets, and pieces of electronical equipment. The garden surprising history too, because it was built in secret. A man called Nick Chand started building the garden in 1957. He chose some land in a forest near the city where there were rocks and a river. Nobody was allowed to build here, so Nick knew that people wouldn't see him there. Then he started to collect rubbish and make the sculptures. Nick's project was illegal, but for 18 years nobody found it. However, in 1975, some government officials discovered it. By that time, the garden was nearly 49,000 square meters in size. The government tried to destroy the garden, but when the people in the city heard about it, they wanted to keep it. In 1976, it became a public park. After that, Nick Chand received a salary so that he could work in the garden full-time, and 50 more people were employed to work there with him. People paid to visit the garden. Nick put collection centers around the town so that he could make more recycled sculptures. However, the garden wasn't safe yet. In 1990, the local government tried to build a road through the park just for VIPs, but local people protested, and their plan failed. Later, Nick became famous. He traveled to the USA to tell people about his garden, but when he returned, his garden was destroyed. It took a long time to rebuild it and keep it safe. Now, a charity manages the garden. Give 1,000 visitors visit this special place each day. Volunteers, workers, and local children still work here. They keep the garden clean and learn to make sculptures. If you like, you can volunteer here too. Growing up poor. My name is Mike, and I was born in a very poor neighborhood in Los Angeles. When I was little, my mother took care of my brother and me because my father left before I came to this world. and he wasn't too interested in being a part of our lives. My mother had to work 2 jobs that didn't pay much. She had to work very hard so that we could have food, clothes, and a place to live. She was great. We loved her and appreciated her efforts. Every day, she usually arrived home very late, and she was exhausted. Still, she always cooked nice meals for us, played with us, and made sure that we did our homework. She always insisted on how important it was to get a good education. She couldn't finish school because she got pregnant with me when she was just a teenager. I couldn't finish school, and that's why I must work so hard now. I earn so little money, she often said. Children were very violent in my neighborhood. You needed to be violent if you wanted to survive. There was a lot of crime, vandalism, and drugs. It wasn't easy to be a good student for any child who lived in our neighborhood. The other children hated you if you got good grades, so I wasn't very popular. The only positive thing about living in that place is that you needed to be very clever to survive, and that helped me later in life. Finally, my brother and I could finish high school. I went to university because I was a very good basketball player, and basketball paid for my university degree. On the day of my graduation, my mother was in tears, and she was in tears again the day I showed her our new apartment away from the neighborhood. Do you know how difficult it is to get out of a poor neighborhood? It's very hard, but I did it, and it was thanks to my mom. Now she doesn't have to work 2 jobs anymore, and I take care of her. Thank you for watching.